Okay, so this is one of my favorite songs by one of my favorite people, and Hal Walker. And it goes like this. Just listen the first time, even if you know it. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Let's try it together. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. Nice. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. One more time for the people who are scampering in, realizing church has begun. Here we go. Whoever you are, we welcome you. Wherever you come from, we welcome you. Whomever you love, we welcome you. You are truly welcome. Welcome to the beloved community known as the Unitarian Universalist Church of Amherst. I'm Reverend Michelle Buhite, the minister of this congregation. My pronouns, which I offer to create a truly inclusive and brave space for all to live into the fullness of their identities, are she and her. I'm joined up front today by our worship associate, Marlena Rice, and of course the unseen geniuses who keep it all rolling together, Les and Andy up in the loft.
Good morning. As Reverend Michelle, good morning again. Thank you. As Reverend Michelle said, I'm Marlena Rice, a member of the worship design team. I've been a member of this church for 38 years. My children were raised in this church. They now both live in California. Now, let's do what we as a congregation do best, and that's to welcome one another. Newcomers and long-timers, let the welcoming begin. Stand up and say hi to your friends.
just take in that nice buzzing energy of what it's like to greet one another. And it just makes me so happy because when we started out the service, there were 6 of us in here. So thank you for arriving and greeting one another. So our opening words today come from UU Minister Reverend Gretchen Haley. I feel that these words are sort of a bridge between the theme that we've been working with this month, which is vulnerability and courage. And also today we will be honoring Ostara, the coming of the spring. And that kind of bridges into next month's theme, which is resistance. And that's going to be just a barrel of monkeys. That's going to be super fun. So listen for the seeds of change and resistance in Reverend Gretchen's words. It's entitled, "This Wholeness is Our Practice of Resistance." Although there remains too much evidence of the world breaking apart at coastlines, congressional hearings, and kitchen tables, inside the quiet places of your heart and mine, there resides still the seeds, the longing to return to this knowing that we belong to each other, this earth, this life, to remember ourselves in all of our lost pieces, beloved in ways that cannot be undone, to dwell here in this healing, this hope. This wholeness is our practice of resistance. Even in rage, we refuse to relinquish gratitude or joy. And so come, let us worship together.
Thank you. The flame represents the spark that each of us brings to represent the light of truth, the warmth of community, and the fire of commitment, to bring more compassion and justice to the world. Please join me in speaking our chalice lighting words. May the light we kindle inspire us to use our powers to heal, not to harm, to help, not to hinder, to bless and not to curse, to serve you, Spirit of life. Each week as we light the chalice to symbolize the gathering community, we also acknowledge that our church is built on holy ground that was first cultivated and occupied by the Haudenosaunee and those known as the Neutrals. We honor them as the original keepers of the land. We offer this libation as our giveaway, a symbol of our respect for the deeper connection with the land. May we be good stewards of the land and courageously cultivate community with all living things. Together we weave a tapestry of reverence and belonging. Please rise in body or spirit as we sing our song of intention, Chant for the Seasons. It's number 73 in the gray hymnal, and the words will also be projected in front.
It'll be better now. My microphone's on. Here we go. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel. Winter is upon us. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel. Winter is upon us. Gray the windy storms, cold upon our cheeks. The wet rain glistens, glistens. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel. Winter is upon us. Leaping is the fire, golden in the glass. The cider glows like amber. Autumn cold has turned the star wheel. Winter is upon us. Winter rains have turned the star wheel. Springtime is upon us. Winter rains have turned the star wheel. Springtime is upon us. Sharp the smell of bloom bursting in our eyes. The turrets of the tulip. Winter rains have turned the star wheel. Springtime is upon us. Greening is the grass, soft upon the brows. The sunlight warm caresses. Winter rains have turned the star wheel. Springtime is upon us. Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel. Summer is upon us. Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel. Summer is upon us. Gliding are the hawks, hovering above the hot and yellow hillside. Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel. Summer is upon us. Crickets in the night, chirping in the ears, the sound of moonlit music. Vernal clouds have turned the star wheel. Summer is upon us.
We are a beloved community, a gathering of people who have chosen to journey together, to encourage one another, and to be part of something more important and life-changing. Because we aspire to be such people, we make bold promises about how we will be living with one another. Whether today is your first time or you have made UU Amherst your longtime home, you are invited to share in our sacred promise. Together we promise to gather in compassionate community, to celebrate diversity of thought and unity of spirit, and to seek wholeness for ourselves, our children, and our world. Our journey has begun. We've gathered and greeted one another. We've acknowledged with deep gratitude the legacy of the land that holds us and the light we carry within. Everything we have done to this point is in the service of a centering piece. We come to church to find our center, to be reminded that we are part of something much larger than ourselves, and that we are held in a love that defies our understanding. And so we bear witness to one another's joy and pain. We make room in the circle and in our hearts for all that we bring. You'll know that the table here, where we acknowledge our joys and pain, is round, a gathering place. Even as you bring your individual hopes and cares, you are part of a circle of love. So gather round, exchange a glance, a smile, even an encouraging touch. We can let go of the neat lines, and we can embrace the messiness of community. Come forward, please, and place your stone in the company of others as you wish. Let us share a few breaths as we expand our circle to include those who may not be present, but whom we carry in our hearts. For all those who are ill, those who are in pain, either in body or in spirit, those who are lonely, those who have been wronged. We are a part of a web of life that makes us one with all humanity, one with all the universe. We are grateful for the miracle of consciousness that we share, the consciousness that gives us the power to remember, to pause, to love, to care. May it ever be so in our lives. Amen, and blessed be.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shape of justice. Roots hold me close, wings set me free. Spirit of life, come to me, come to me. Now I look like a storyteller. Circle round, and let me tell you a very very ancient story. On a beautiful day in spring, Cori, daughter of Demeter, was gathering flowers with her maidens in a green meadow. The earth was green with new growth and lush with bright crocuses, sweet narcissus, and fragrant hyacinths. The young women sang as they picked the flowers, and they danced on the new grass. Now I look like a storyteller. Cori wandered away from the maidens, and she was drawn to one area where there was one single flower that seemed to be sending out a golden light, a light that invited her to come closer. Now, as the daughter of Demeter, she knew the rules about how you act with plants, Demeter being the mother goddess of all the earth. But this flower was so beautiful. And as she got closer, she could smell its perfume, and it just drew her closer and closer. And all those rules about not picking the last or the first of something, those rules just flew right out of her head. And unable to resist, she bent down. I will not be doing that. She bent down and she picked that flower. And suddenly the earth in front of her gave way into this great chasm. And coming up from this chasm, I guess I don't need the walking stick, do I? Coming up from this great chasm was a soft light and more of that enticing perfume. The maidens were off in another part of the field, and Cori looked to them and thought, well, I'll just explore for a little bit, because it was so enticing. And so she walked into what had become sort of a cave. And she traveled down and down and down, and then it started getting a little narrower. She squeezed and squeezed and squeezed, but she could still smell that perfume. It was so enticing. And then it got a little lower, and so then she was hunched over a bit. And she thought, well, I can go back any time. And she kind of shuffled back, made sure, okay, I can still get out. I'll go just a little bit further. I want to know where all of the beauty that we see on the surface of the earth, I want to know where that comes from. And so it got lower and lower until finally she was crawling on her belly and the rocks were kind of scraping on her back. And she thought, I should probably test this again. And she went to shimmy back a little bit, and her hips got stuck. Nowhere to go but forward. And so she crept and crawled and scraped her way until she was completely stuck. She was going nowhere. And suddenly the earth beneath her gave way and she started to fall. But it was not a plunge. It was like a feather, slowly and softly falling onto a soft, waiting earth. She was deep, deep, deep within the earth. And she kept hearing voices and began to see like the soft wisps of faces and wondered, is this where the souls go when they're done living on earth? And she crept along, and the ceiling seemed to be getting bigger and bigger, but she was still way, way low. And she walked into this great chamber that had a massive throne at one end. And there, resplendent in jewels and with flaming torches all around, sat Hades, god of the underworld. And she wasn't afraid, because they were relatives. And so she went up to him and said, Hades, I am your niece. Or was it cousin? It was some relation, a couple times removed. They had a common relative in Hecate, who had once ruled the underworld until Hades took over. And then all of the family tree kind of got jumbled. So there was a relationship, but it went back, several generations and a couple cycles ago. But she thought, I will just tell him what I want. We're related. Of course he will. He will let me go. And so when Hades said, welcome, Corey, as soon as he said her name, he realized that he loved her deeply and was reluctant to let her go. And so he said, you must be tired. And then that's when she noticed that there was another throne right next to his. And so she said, well, I'll just sit for a little bit, but I really must get back to my mother. She must be so worried. Well, above ground, the sun was going down and Corey was not home yet. And Demeter was starting to get a little bit concerned. And the maidens came from across the field and they were wailing, Demeter, Demeter, Corey is gone. The earth opened up and then she was gone. Demeter went out into the fields and through the towns, dressed like an old woman with her walking stick, looking for Corey. Had anyone seen her lovely, lovely daughter, goddess of spring? No one had seen her. Weeks and months went by, and Demeter just continued to look for her daughter, and so she didn't have time or energy or the will to make sure that the apple trees produced or that grain happened. And the earth began to echo her loss. And the fields were barren. And the good rains had nothing to bring to life. Meanwhile, underground, Hades keeps offering food and drink to his beautiful Corey because she is so sad. She just wants to go home. But you can't leave the underworld. And so he said, please eat something. You're getting so thin, you look so sad. Please eat something. Meanwhile, in the heavens, the gods are getting worried because when there's no grain happening, there are no fatted calves, there are no offerings. And the gods are getting a bit upset. Who's supposed to take care of us? They said. And so Zeus says, maybe we can make an exception about this underworld thing. We can bring Corey back, but only if she has not eaten or drunk anything while she's been there. And so arrangements are made. Corey will be able to come home to be with her mother who loves her so. And spring will return, and Demeter will get out of her funk, and she will tend to the earth again, and then there will be sacrifices again, and everybody will be happy. Meanwhile, in the underworld, Hades offers Corey a fruit. Do you know what kind of fruit? Pomegranate. Did you say banana? Yeah. He offers her a pomegranate. And when it's open, she sees those luscious fruits, and they are so sweet looking. And she can tell just by looking that that tart juice is exactly what she needs. And so she eats. And in the heavens, there is a ruckus, because now, how will they rescue her and bring her back? But as she eats, something amazing happens. It's like she has a complete personality change. And she grabs those flaming torches and she's singing, she's dancing and whirling all around, and she is gaining stature. I don't know if that meant getting taller, but becoming more of a presence, becoming more herself, rather than being the shadow of her daughter, of her mother, Demeter. She was becoming herself. And she said, I am no longer Cori, which, by the way, simply means girl. She didn't even have a name prior to this. She was just girl. She said, I am no longer Cori. I am Persephone, and I am queen of the underworld. And the gods said, ooh, no, she's a little bit scary. She has come into herself. Just by eating those seeds, those little pomegranate seeds, she discovered herself. And so arrangements were made that Cori, now Persephone, could be with Hades in the underworld, but in the exact number of pomegranate seeds which she had eaten, 1 month for each seed, she would be above ground with her mother, so that life could go on, that seeds would flower, and even the gods would be appeased. And that is my story. I think I'll just become myself now. Throughout this month, we have been exploring what it means to be vulnerable, and perhaps discovering that vulnerability can be a strength when it is tied to courage. Last week, I placed my trust in you, allowed myself to be vulnerable, which took more than a little bit of courage, I will say, even though we have forged a strong relationship over the 7.5 years that I've been here. Today, we will again consider courage and vulnerability as we mark the tenuous arrival of spring. Yeah, Buffalo Spring. There's no words for it. Let's just have a moment of silence for what spring would look like. The coming of spring with its exuberance and reaffirmation of life is, I think, a universalist love story. In our blended faith family, I find that it is universalism that invites me to experience an embodied relational faith, connected to life in capital letters and maybe in flowers. Where Unitarianism invites me to ponder the existence and nature of God, that which is tantalizing but ultimately unknowable, Universalism grounds me in relationship and urges me to be fully engaged with head, heart, and hands, that which is knowable because it can be directly experienced. And so today, I want to share with you a Universalist love story and invite you to access that deep knowing that resides within each one of us. I invite you to open your hearts, your minds, and your senses to drink in the beauty and the miracle of the possibility of spring, that your winter-hardened hearts might soften once again and open to possibility. This universalist love story begins with the courage of the seed. So I'm going to share with you a piece from the Book of Awakening by author and poet Mark Nepo, and he writes, All the buried seeds crack open in the dark the instant they surrender to a process they can't see. As a seed buried in the earth cannot imagine itself as an orchid or a hyacinth, neither can a heart packed with hurt imagine itself loved or at peace. The courage of the seed is that once cracking, it cracks all the way. Some of you long-timers might be thinking, have we heard this before? I've used this particular passage in several sermons because it cracks me open. It affirms that experience, that actual longing to be cracked open, to have that hard shell open just the tiniest bit. And so yes, if you are thinking this is familiar, you are absolutely correct. And really, if I could figure out a way to say this particular thing every Sunday in slightly different ways so you didn't feel like I was just cranking out the same sermon every week, I would say this same thing all the time, because I believe in this level of vulnerability, of allowing ourselves to be packed down in the dirt, whatever that means for you, and allowing ourselves to be cracked open. So there. You're right. You've heard it before. All the buried seeds crack open in the dark the instant they surrender to a process they can't see. So I wonder what kind of seeds you have planted that might be languishing in the dark. Maybe it's been so long since you planted those seeds that you'd be hard-pressed to even name them, or possibly even to remember when you planted them. Can you recall that optimistic day when you sowed the seeds of creativity, generosity, and love? That usually happens on January 1st when we come up with our, this year I'm going to do it better. I'm going to do it differently. And we plant those little seeds, and then we forget about them, or we try to. Maybe you planted seeds of self-care with the promise that this time, yes, this time, you would give yourself the nurture and the care to keep hope alive. Or did you, like Jack's mother in the story, the beanstalk, weary and disillusioned, throw those hard, nondescript seeds out the window, unable to imagine the fragile life held within that brittle shell? How often do we throw away the seeds of possibility because we lack imagination? As a seed buried in the earth cannot imagine itself as an orchid or hyacinth, neither can a heart packed with hurt imagine itself loved or at peace. Like the seed trapped in darkness with no idea what life of possibility is stirring within, we sojourn alone through the spiritual winter with no comfort that this movement through the cold and the darkness is actually the threshold to change to God. Like the seed beneath the cold, hard earth, I have felt remote and distant from light and love and hope. I can't tell you the moments when I finally surrendered. Looking back, I can see where I began to let go. Often we hang on to our, our concerns, our hurts. We hang on to them with a white knuckle grip. We don't want them, but they kind of define us after a while. Who will we be without those things, that pain, that loss that defines us? So I had to, sort of spiritually unwrap those knuckles to let go of just a tiny one. That's like one seed's worth. And if you look at the little echinacea seeds, they're so tiny Don't sneeze near them, or there are no seeds left, because they're so tiny, so fragile. So I'm addressing one of those things, right? Get my little hands away from that. And I've learned that trying to muscle through that doesn't work. Softening the grip, softening that tight hold, that's what allows us to finally open ourselves. So for me, the softening began as I opened my heart to new possibilities and new relationships. Yes, relationships with people, but relationships with myself and also with what I call deep self. And for me, there's a difference there. And maybe that means I need help. I don't know. But deep self is where I'm cultivating a relationship. And I think deep self is connected to the all of it. So whether you call that God or the web of all existence, energy, life, whatever word is your name for all of it, for me, that's where deep self is connected. The earth around the tough, bitter seed of my heart sometimes begins to soften and warm, and the first tiny cracks appear in the hard shell. But tiny cracks just are not going to cut it. Tiny cracks in the shell are simply the openings that allow the warmth to spread into the seed. The courage of the seed is that once cracking, it cracks all the way. That is the act of full surrender to a process we can't see. Sometimes when we feel the polished veneer begin to crack, we do whatever we can to halt the process, to keep up appearances, to avoid falling apart. Surrendering to that process that we cannot see is an act of faith. And when that seed submits and surrenders to that process, that momentary death that must happen for it to open, it opens itself to realizing its full potential. The orchid or the hyacinth that slumbers within the seed can only move from imagination to full form through the death of the seed. Sometimes we must surrender to a death of a dream, of a relationship, a way of living and being, in order to be reborn into a new way of being. And it is imperative that we take that journey. It's a journey of the seed, the journey of surrender and rebirth. And it is a spiritual journey, and one that I think we undertake every day of our lives. As a seed buried in the earth cannot imagine itself as an orchid or a hyacinth, neither can a heart packed with hurt imagine itself loved or at peace. That image of a heart packed with hurt actually makes my heart hurt a little bit. Not one of us is spared that painful experience. And nature teaches us that this is the path of surrender and transformation. It happens with the seed. Only through the death of the seed can the life come forth. So seldom do we shake off doubt and despair like an ill-fitting coat, having outgrown it or tired of its fashion. Shedding and releasing can be excruciating. But I have found that there is hope in the life of a seed. And hearts, like seeds in cold earth, have to crack open. They have to surrender to a process they cannot see to be reborn. And I think surrender is a good thing. But if you've watched too many old, war movies, surrender seems like a terrible thing. But surrendering to that life process, that possibility of change, that's a good thing. So Nepo calls this journey from the darkness of the buried seed to the breakthrough into a life of light, the threshold to God. I don't know. What I like to think about is if you've ever, and they don't do this so much on TV, I have this memory as a kid of lying on the floor at my grandparents' house, watching TV. How did we ever maintain that position? and of time release photography. They would like show the flower and all of a sudden it's a beautiful thing. And you just, I don't know, we don't see those images. Maybe I'm just watching the wrong stuff. But I like to think of that imagery. And I tried to capture it in this a little bit of showing buds and the full-blown flower. As the seed cracks open, tiny little tendrils full of determined life can be seen moving from within the seed out into the soil. And then, depending on that time-lapse photography, if they've really captured that underground business before it bursts through, it comes up several inches of soil toward the warming light of the sun. And finally, those tendrils burst through the crust, and the plant is visible. Then the plant can grow and thrive. When we apply this to our own journey, from darkness to the breakthrough into a life of light, we find the threshold to God. We encounter ourselves, big letters, glitter. We become our authentic selves. It's the journey of transformation. And whether we're talking about seeds or our own life, transformation is the key. I want to share with you another Carolyn McDade song. Spirit of Life, the song that we love, the UU National Anthem, is by Carolyn McDade. And this song, Rising Green, is her sort of anthem to the change from cold and hard into supple and growing life. And so this is a recording that Adam Schmidt, when he was our pianist for a bit, he and I made this recording together.
My blood doth rise in the roots of yon oak, her sap doth run in my veins, boundless my soul like the open sky, where the stars forever have lain, where the stars, where the stars, where the stars forever have lain.
My hands hold the weavings of time without end. My sight as deep as the sea. Beating my heart sense the measures of old that of love's eternity. That of love, that of love, that of love's eternity.
I feel the tides as they answer the moon, rushing on a far distant sand. Winging my song is the wind of my breast, and my love blows over the land. And my love, and my love, and my love blows over the land.
So those snow-covered flowers were pictures from right out here, and the deer right out back in our trails in the W. Waterhouse Ecology Center. If you have not walked back there, well, you might want to wait till the snow's slightly less slippery, but make a plan. So be warned, I'm going to go 3 minutes over. Just relax, breathe into that knowledge. Okay, good. So, because I wanted to bring one of my favorite process theologians to you, Henry Nelson Wyman. He's noted for saying, "Our ultimate commitment is to that which has the power to transform us, as we cannot transform ourselves when the necessary conditions have been met." I should tell you that Henry Nelson Wyman rejected God language, and what he used instead of that to try to capture the enormity of the life process and all of it was creative interchange. I invite you to let that word roll around in your head this week. Creative interchange. That's relational. That might be the universalist love story that I promised you, that relational piece with ourselves, with deep self, with the all of it, however you name that. This love story grounds us in relationship. This saving love, because I think all relationships that are healthy and good are based in love, and they create more love. It works on us in ways we cannot even begin to imagine, preparing us like the seed in the cold, dark earth, and like Corey transformed into Persephone, queen of the underworld, awakened by the warmth of the sun, bursting into joyous full blossom. This love, this hope-filled message that comes from the universalist side of our faith family, gives us the courage, I think, to begin cracking, and then to crack all the way. Then we will not only imagine ourselves loved and at peace, we will know that we are loved, and we will know peace. We're going to sing. It's hymn number 6 in your gray hymnal. I'm going to scamper down to the piano, and Les will be making the words go by. So rise in body or spirit as we sing number 6, and the words will be up front. Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I made my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my dark, always that elusive spark. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. Disappointment pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
One should always use whatever fun things come along. Good morning. I am Suzanne Christ, and I'm a new member of the Board of Trustees. I'm doing a one-year term. I was appointed to complete someone else's 3-year term. As our service draws to an end, Our service to the world is ready to begin. Let me tell you about some of the opportunities to connect and serve in the days to come. I first want to tell you to mark your calendars for Sunday, April 23rd, when Reverend Michelle will be offering a workshop on communication skills. The workshop, which will take place at noon that day, is sponsored by the Leadership Development and the Nominating Committee. Easter's coming, in case you didn't know. It's going to be April 9th. It's a special day for all ages. I understand the Easter Bunny might be making an appearance, and there will be crafts for the kids during the service, and a candy-free toy prize egg hunt following the service. Please invite friends and relatives to partake in that special day. Today at noon, here in the chapel, there will be an update and conversation around the UU principles. So grab your coffee, come in, and sit down. The Unitarian Universalist Association is reviewing Article 2 of the bylaws. What we know is our principles and sources. As a member of the congregation, it's our right and responsibility to educate ourselves and provide thoughtful input to the proposed reworking of Article 2. Lorraine Marcus and Marie Evans will provide information and a time for conversation at noon today here in the chapel in person. So grab your coffee, as I said, and return to the chapel so you can participate. Is there? We'd be remiss if we didn't invite you to participate in supporting the mission and ministry of the UU Amherst and with your financial gifts. You'll find a green basket at the back on either side where you can make contributions, or you can give online by going to our website, uuamherst.org, and clicking on the giving link. Or you can text your gift to the number on the screen, which is there. I can't see it because of the glare, but hopefully you can. Your gifts and participation are important because we pick fruit from trees we did not plant. We drink water from wells we did not dig. This is as it should be, so long as we dig and plant for those who come after. Your generous giving supports the work of this congregation.
I invite you to rise in body or spirit as we sing our closing blessing, and then remain standing as we extinguish our chalice. Travel light and travel easy, till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend. May the road rise up to greet you as you leave your past behind. I will think about you gently, and I'll hold you in my mind. You know what to do. Twinkle your eyes at one another. Look around as we sing the last verse. Travel light and travel easy, till I see you once again. Travel light and travel easy, and remember I'm your friend. And Marlena, if you would extinguish our chalice, please join me with our words. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Go in peace and return your phones to regular mode.